Chapter 15. I had to fill my parents in on some of this because I knew that I may not get a chance to soon. I wanted to let them know that they might be grandparents also. I needed to let them know that if anything happened to me that I was innocent and I was set up. Sarah and I pulled up to the house and it was dark on the inside. "Sarah, wait here. I'm going to go talk to my parents." "Okay, Ellis." As I walked to the front door, I could see that the door was not secured. It looked to be open just about an inch. I walked more cautiously. Slowly, I opened the front door and poked my head in. The place was a mess. It looked like a bomb went off inside. As I walked around, I was stepping on broken glass, and I could hear the crunch with almost every step. I started to walk down the hallway and got a whiff of something that was just unmistakable. Death. I started to panic a bit inside. "Mom! Dad!" I whispered. I didn't want to say it too loud until I knew no one was here. I walked room to room, slowly opening the door to eliminate any chance that someone else was here. Finally, I came to my room, and the odor was unavoidable. I leaned on my door and a few flies buzzed around my face. Oh my God, I thought, did they get to my parents? I didn't want to open the door for fear of what I might find, but I knew I had to. I grabbed the handle, turning the knob, and cracked the door. The stench wafted past my face. I immediately gagged and dry heaved a bit. The smell was so bad, even plugging my nose wasn't cutting it. I made my way to the bathroom to get some Vicks menthol rub to put under my nose. I saw the cops do this once on TV and thought maybe it would help. I started looking through the medicine cabinet with anticipation on what I might find. I could hear footsteps coming down the hall. I looked around the bathroom for something to use as a weapon. I could only find a candle stand made out of steel, almost like a bat. I grabbed it and pushed myself against the door jamb and waited for them to come into view so I could take a whack at them. I could hear my breathing getting deeper and tenser as they got closer. The footsteps stopped and turned back. Suddenly I could hear my bedroom door opening, and I knew that because my door had a certain squeak when it was pushed open. The squeaking stopped. I decided to poke my head out to take a look. I leaned past the door jamb. "Oh, Sarah, you scared the hell out of me. What are you doing?" "Ellis, I was getting frightened in the car, so I came in order to look for you." "Sarah, don't do that again. It's not safe for you." Sarah pinched her nose closed. "Ellis, what's that smell? It's so bad." "I don't know yet, Sarah. The last time I remember anything this bad was when I saw Clarice after she had been dead for a few days." I dipped my finger into the rub. "Here, put some of this Vicks under your nose so it won't smell so bad. Sarah, stay here. Let me look just in case it's nasty." "No way you're leaving me here alone, Ellis." "All right, just stay close behind me." I walked to the bedroom and the flies were really buzzing around now that the door was open. I walked to the room and looked in. I could see that there was something in my bed covered by my comforter. I walked to the side of the bed closer to the lump in the bed. "Careful, Ellis." Sarah had put her hands up by her face for security. I reached for the comforter and pulled it down, and I hesitated because I didn't know what I would see. I grabbed the comforter again and started to slide it down. "Wait, Ellis, I'm starting to feel a bit queasy. I don't know if it's because I'm pregnant or what. Sarah, maybe you should leave the room and I'll look." I looked back at Sarah and I could see that her face looked a bit ghostly. And as I looked, I could see her eyes starting to roll back in her head. I lunged for her because I somehow knew she was going down. I grabbed her, but she was too much for me to hold. Her limp body slithered through my hands and arms as she lay on the floor. Sarah wakes up. It seems like an eternity before she opened her eyes. Sarah looked at me very confused. "I think, Sarah, that you passed out. I need to get you out of here, Sarah. I feel dizzy." Because I haven't had very much to eat, I think, today, Ellis. All right, let's stand you up. Maybe we can get you something to eat. I asked if Sarah felt well enough to walk. Yes, I feel a bit better. I have to get out of here, Ellis. I can't stand that smell anymore. Okay, Sarah, I'm right behind you. Sarah stepped out of the bedroom door and I reached for the comforter. I had to know. At this point, not much shocked me anymore. I looked down at the corpse's face and I knew that there was another piece to the puzzle, but what was it? The face was familiar to me, but I just couldn't place it right now. This body was as fresh as any that I had seen. In fact, so fresh that maybe they were just killed. A note that said the remedy is coming was laid on the body. I was a little stumped because a body this fresh I thought didn't smell as bad. Ellis, where are you? Yes, Sarah, I'll be right there. I walked out of the room and things were just so confusing. I had clues, but it just felt like there was so much more to the story. Sarah and I jumped into the car and headed for the mines to meet Chev and Rave at the gate. As we drove, I started to put the facts together in my head and began to formulate a plan of attack. As we arrived at the gate of the mines, Chev and Rave were already parked off to the side. Chev got out of the car and started telling me that he thought it was best that Rave took my car so no one knows you're here. Ellis, I'll bring your car and the supplies up to the mine, and then I'll leave you and Sarah there, said Rave. We arrived at the mine area and Rave said with conviction, That one right there, that one will be perfect. Are you sure, Rave? I asked. Yes, I know that one well, and that'll be easy to find because of the pointed roof on it. Rave and Chev helped us get the supplies in the mine and said their goodbyes. Ellis, I'll come up and check on you every day or so. That sounds good, Chev. Rave took off in my car and Chev followed closely behind him. As soon as they were out of sight, I told Sarah, we're moving into another mine. We are? Why, Ellis? I have a funny feeling about Rave, and I think he's setting us up for something. Okay, let's move then. Sarah, I'll be right back. I want to find us a suitable new home. Sarah smiled. It's like we're married, and this will be our first home, and maybe we can even have a honeymoon. A honeymoon? How are we going to do that, Sarah? Let's find a place first, Ellis, then we can talk. Finally, I found one that was in the back of most of the mines, out of sight, and I pried the boards off the front. We moved our supplies in. I spread a blanket down for Sarah so she could relax a bit. Sarah, lay down for a bit and rest. I'll keep my eye out for anyone. After Sarah lays down, I knelt next to her and rubbed her stomach a bit. Sarah relaxes and rubs my hand. I love the feel of your hand on my stomach. It has a real calming effect on me. I smiled at Sarah. You rest, Sarah. I'm going to go through our supplies. We had some bread with peanut butter and jelly, some donuts, and 2 Playboy magazines. There was no doubt that Chev packed this bag of goodies. An old pan and a couple of cans of raviolis. Not a gourmet dinner, but at least we weren't going to starve. Sarah, I'm going to go gather some wood before it gets dark to make a fire. I'll be right back. I walked around the mine area for the first time with a bit of daylight so I could see what was going on. As I gathered wood, I went further and further into the forest until I came across the cemetery. There were still police tape markers up, probably because of the Mathers investigation. I looked around and could see no one, so I lifted the tape and walked over to the open grave. I stared down into the hole, thinking this place must have something to do with this whole thing, because it keeps leading me back to here. I scratched my head and looked to the sky, right into the sun, momentarily blinding myself. I rubbed my eyes to clear my vision, and when I finally focused, I was looking at the headstone for the open grave. Egbert Page, I said out loud. Egbert Page. That's my grandfather's name. I heard something over the years that my grandfather was buried around here, but I was the typical kid, never thought much of it, nor did I ever see where he was buried. I looked around at the other headstones, and to the right, I read the name, Mary Belinda Ames. Okay, That's strange, I thought, buried right next to my grandfather's grave, and they died on the very same date? I thought long and hard, but none of it made any sense to me. I guess it's just a coincidence. I knew I needed to go back to Sarah, so I gathered my wood and headed back to our little mine home. Sarah was sleeping when I got back, so I tried to be as quiet as I could. I started a fire to keep Sarah warm. It was still a bit chilly out. The fire warmed us just enough. Sarah finally woke up and I cooked a can of raviolis and opened the donuts. You know, Sarah, I was thinking, have you thought of any names for the baby at all? Well, I have a few in mind. What about you? No, you go first, Sarah. Okay. If it's a boy, I was thinking maybe Beauregard. I'm just kidding. Oh, hell, you had to go there, Sarah? Really, I was just kidding. Well, you have a sick sense of humor. Of course I do. I'm with you, aren't I? I laughed and grabbed one of the magazines and started thumbing through it. Well, I was thinking Ellis for a boy, and if it's a girl, I was thinking maybe Mary. I smiled at Ellis for a boy, but asked in curiosity about Mary. Yes, Mary was my grandmother's name. Mary Ames was her name. Did she have a middle name, Sarah? Yes, I think her name was Mary Belinda Ames. That's so weird, Sarah. I just read a tombstone over there that said Mary Belinda Ames on it. Well, that's really not so weird, Ellis, because she's my dad's mother, and she's buried in that cemetery. What happened to your grandmother? How did she die? From what I understand, Mary had an affair long ago and became pregnant. All of a sudden, I felt sick. What if Mary had an affair with Egbert, and Sarah was really my cousin? My God, I'm going to have a two-headed baby. What is that, Ellis? Sarah asked. I didn't want to tell her that I thought we might be cousins. Ellis, I asked you a question. Is that a Playboy? I smirked. Oh, yes. I only read it for the articles, you know. Sarah smiled. Do you have any more? I handed the other magazine to her and she started to thumb through it. My God, son, the father said. Now that would really be a sin if she was your cousin. Father, how can it be a sin when I had no idea that I might be related to her? Well, it is what it is. Yes, it's just my luck. It has nothing to do with luck, Ellis. Those who don't believe have a whole different path in life. Ellis, what I really want to know is who was lying in the bed when you pulled the comforter down. The father leaned down with his elbows on his knees with that goofy grin on his face. I bet you'd like to know, wouldn't you, Father? I may take that one to the grave with me just because I know you're so curious. Well, it seems to me, son, that I remember something way back about Egbert and Mary and an illegitimate son. It was quite a mess, but I don't remember all the details. I just remember that there was a murder, and they could never figure out who had done it. There was a huge investigation, but the police could not determine whether Mary's husband had committed the murders. There was even speculation that Mary Mather's son had something to do with it, but they could never prove any of it because the bodies disappeared. What do you mean the bodies were gone? I saw the headstones for Egbert and Mary. Well, yes, but that is all they are. The bodies disappeared. What do you mean the bodies were gone? I saw the headstones for both Egbert and Mary. Well, yes, but that's all they are. The bodies disappeared. I heard the steel door to the holding cell open. It was the head guard. Excuse me, Father. I need to talk to Ellis for a minute. Sure, I'll excuse myself. Once the father departed the cell, the guard spoke quickly and quietly. Paige, you're scheduled for execution tomorrow at midnight. The warden ordered that we are not to wait on you no matter what the holdup is with the state. This doesn't make sense to me, Paige. I looked in your file and there are no records on you whatsoever. Why am I not finding court papers, admission papers, or execution papers on you, Paige? The door clanks in the background as another guard comes our way. The officer looks me off and stands back up. I said thank you to the officer. Can you send the father back in? Sure. The father comes back in and sits down. You know, Ellis, you don't really strike me as a killer. Maybe someone that's looked for love in all the wrong places. Father, you should be a country singer. What do you mean, Ellis? Never mind, Father.